But like if you're like somebody who goes into the fiber lab and spot cleans something and they don't have a check partner, and someone else observes them doing that, and we get
for 10-15 minutes,
and we get a suspected strike from a witness, but yet we don't. The person who's doing the spot cleaning didn't question their action.
this is what it, now, see, we talked about this on the last tape, but we didn't talk about the fact that we can understand why the person who is doing something without a check partner isn't uncomfortable. We don't know what is happening. It means that you're doing things carelessly, or you're just not even trying to keep your next level mind in your brain, or you would have the alarm go off, uh-oh, I'm doing this without a check partner. Because we have just in the last notes, the notes just came last night, there were several instances of where individuals as witnesses were observing things occurring, and yet we did not get things from the people that were doing them. And it should be really the other way around. But what concerns us is how the person who is doing something without a check partner is not aware of it. It's not that we're so concerned that they aren't writing a suspected strike note, even they should be, but don't get the idea that our concern is that they aren't writing a suspected strike note. They should be writing one, but our concern is how can they be so unkeen as to not recognize that they're doing something without a check partner.
Of course, they're not questioning themselves. They're assuming that everything they do is okay. And
Or going out on the ground without checking with a check partner. Or, you know, there are several things that we could go on, but we don't know what happens in your brain that causes you to be able to do something without a check partner. And then the check partner or someone else even becomes aware of it, but you don't become aware of it.
And you've got to, this is the kind of keenness that you want to develop. And we want you to examine yourself, everything that you do. And then if you're able, if you feel like everything you're doing is okay after you examine it, then great. We're not complaining because we don't get any reports. But what we cannot understand is why we get some from witnesses, but none from the ones who are actually doing the strikes. Darwin?
This is one about this. Happens sometimes when you're dusting. Christmas the other day, I was dusting, and I was somebody and said, "Do you think crap is dusted?"
After you started?
No, before I started.
Okay.
And the individual said, "Yes, I think it'd be okay to dust." So I went ahead and I dusted. Now, there was one person participation in dusting. Then I checked with the partner, and I go ahead and dusted.
Oh, so you can't do that.
Okay.
You can't, because you can't say, do you think it'd be okay for me to dust the craft and then go and do it and let the check partner die there? That'd be like someone saying, do you think such a car needs vital signs? And they say yes, and then I go do vital signs.
I think that's where the problem comes in, because, you know, like I went ahead and dusted.
Because you didn't have a check partner.
In a sense, I
No, you didn't. In the only sense, you didn't have check. You just checked to see whether or not the craft should be dusted.
Well, I think
And they
the
agreed with
problem
you,
is
but
that
it ceased. Because in our thinking, you don't, like, if it really needs dusting, then the question should be asked at a time that you could ask someone who would participate in the task with you. And they would say, shall we do this, or I'll do this, you do that, or then you check and see that it's done, and you all see that the task is accomplished, no matter what it is. But you can't ask somebody if they think it ought to be done. They say yes, and then there's no check partner involved. That's like getting permission from somebody. And you're not getting permission. You're supposed to do a task with a check partner.
And that's come to my head a couple of times. Like, you know, I would see people dusting in the station. I did a check part. And then I had concern about this because they did check and said they love dusting. You know,
Unless you saw someone standing there with them or participating with.
so in other words, if you check for somebody and you say, yes, I think he does it, or you say, you think the office does it.
See, you don't say, do you think it needs to be that way? You should say, would you want to participate with
Yes.
me
Yes.
in the dusting project? It
Right.
appears
Or
to me like
is this a convenient time, and for you to participate with me? Because otherwise, you should question length. Is this a task that can be done without a check partner? But all you did was ask permission, or ask somebody if they thought it ought to be done. And that's not the way to work. Even when Lynx is doing an experiment or washing the dishes or anything else, we do those things together and we see what the other one does, and we're constantly a check partner. We don't one go off in one end of the craft and do something while another one goes off in the other end of the craft. That's not.
I've spoken good about doing it that way, but that's either way there, but,
Well,
See, we're trying to change that, okay? And by your questioning these things, this is how we're going to make it right.
you can't use a check partner to go to the BC, or in the shower, or to shave, or to get on your exercise bike. But I don't know what the things are, but they should be very clear in your mind that they're things that couldn't be. You can't get to on the bike.
I think you know what the things are,
See,
everything that
just
is
like you
perfect.
can't get two on your side of the BC at once. You can't get two in your bunk at once. So those things have to be things that are not, that they're done according to a routine that we have set up.
You would just take short term visas and justify those versus not enough manpower in a short time.
Well, I'm sorry, then, no, that's no excuse. Then it should be happening then. It should happen when there is manpower, and even if the craft goes undusted until a time when there are people there. But you can't do the task because one or two of you are available, and then do it without a check mark. Hanging out towels is, to us, where hanging out towels would be by yourself would start at the time that with your FiberLab check partner, you have agreed that I'm going out, or is this the right time for me to go out and hang? And that's where the partnership ends until you return into the craft, because you have an instruction that only one needs to go out. Now, what was the other one you mentioned? I don't know why that would.
Somebody should be with you doing it.
I don't know why that would be one person.
It doesn't
gathering
mean
things
that
up.
they would go, two of you would go to each BC, but one of you would go to one BC, one another, and meet at the third, since you have three. But it wouldn't be something one person would do.
No, it's a two-people task.
It sounds simple. In other words, the tasks seem too simple to you. If they were next level things, you would be able to handle them better.
Yeah, you
But
think of them as
because they're
housework
humans, you can't
instead
do
of.
it. It's doing it as a human. And it's true we don't need two people for some of these things, but we don't need all the people in for a lab experiment either. But we're trying to teach you all using these circumstances in the best way that we can. There's just no other way to teach it, because we don't have the facilities that we would like to have, or the circumstances. But we're trying to, the only way you can keep from having human responses is by not participating in human things. And if you treat the picking up of the laundry, the dirty towels and things like that from the rest chambers as next level task and not as a human task, and doing it by the standards or the way that we have asked you to do it, then you can stay out of the human vibration. If you perform in the lab the way we would like for you to perform in the lab, you would stay out of the human vibration. And if you dust the way we ask you to dust, you would stay out of the human vibration. If you vacuum, anything you do, if you do it the way a member at the next level would do it, you would stay out of the human vibration, which makes it easier for your mind to come in and stay. And this is what we're trying to do. If your actions are next level actions, then your thoughts will be next level actions. There won't be any room for human thoughts. There are no room for human thoughts in their mind. As soon as one would slip in, it's immediately aborted because
the other one
where did
becomes
you come
very
from?
uncomfortable so quickly that the one who might be talking about something that could lead to that becomes very uncomfortable that the other one's uncomfortable. So that's your gauge of quickly getting back on the track.
It's
Can you
almost like
understand that?
speaking English and then all of a sudden you start barking like a dog when you go to the human setting.
I mentioned,
Sounds that obvious,
yes,
you know.
I mentioned exercising. For the most part, we even exercise as check partners. I mean, maybe not all the time, but most of the time we even exercise as check partners. Like we'll set the timer and agree that the timer is set for so many minutes, and one will do something on one exercise while some will do something else for so many minutes, and so that we are assisting each other in doing what they want to do as far as keeping them out of time on a particular exercise. In other words, we don't just go in and find the other one exercising. You see what we're saying? Because we know it's like, because we're a partnership on this task, and we know what the other one is doing all the time, and we even become uncomfortable if we don't know what the other one is doing, and it's not because we're nosy. But if there was a minute like when one had to go out of the room for something and we knew that why they went, but they were gone longer than we would expect, we even become uncomfortable and almost like, is there something wrong? Is there something I can do? You see what I'm saying? Because it's everything we do is a partnership. And you should work with your check partners in the same way, because you're going to be stuck with check partner relationships from here on ad infinitum. And the better it works, the better you're going to like it, and the better your check partner is going to like it.
This is what really pushes the vibrations down in your craft also, is when you're not doing things as members of the next level. And when we walk in and see things where individuals are doing things by themselves, then that it really discourages us, because it's like you're in a house, living in a house, existing as a human. You see what I'm saying? It stands out very strong in my eyes when I see it. And this is one of the things we want you all to work on. When you do things always as a pair, you can't possibly become as humans unless you get into a human fight, argument or something.
Yes, and unless you let the vehicles either become attracted or repulsive in some way. Do you see what we're saying? It's the only way you can get out of shape.
Years you've told us different times certain things about our being to help us bring awareness of things that we're doing and aware of. And this step came up. I don't know if the pipe or what, but I wish there was some way that we would know better how we can slip into these things.
Well, but see, if you are plagued constantly with the thought of I don't want to do anything and not be aware of doing it as a member of the next level, if that kind of feeling is in your head consciously all day long, then it's not going to happen. But you can't think of that as a part of a homework. You've got to carry that kind of thought with you all the time. Even to me, those of you who are on out-of-craft tasks by yourself, when you don't have a classmate working there, or even like somebody's on maintenance, they may be hours off with no one, even a human around working with them. Even then, I would almost act as if I were talking to my check partner. I would be carrying on a little
But this was on the
silent
tape that we
dialogue.
talked about just recently. Did y'all hear that? Sam Moody, could y'all hear what Sam Moody said on the tape? And now this is the good practice. If you are asking all of the time, and it doesn't hurt. It's getting the practice of your vehicle talking with your mind, because now your vehicle is. But what's so funny, the mind has to start it. You know what I'm saying? And before you know it, it will become the vehicle.
Right, and then the mind has to prod the vehicle every time it begins to let up. Every time the vehicle begins to do something less than having next level consciousness, then the mind has to prod it. But your mind has to stay there constantly and prod it. In other words, why did we start you out in campgrounds on 12-minute checks? Because I guarantee you 12 minutes comes around pretty fast. And if you all at your autocraft test or anywhere else were that frequently, or it should be even more frequently than that, seriously checking to see if your head is at the level of thinking that a member of the next level would maintain, then your troubles would be over. It's when great gaps of periods pass that you don't even check to see where you are. You just assume that you're okay. And you can drop miles, like a plane dropping 30,000 feet in the air, without even knowing it until you all but hit the mountain.
At times when, I don't know if this is right or not, at times when Lisa's tell us it's okay to do such and such, alarms go off in my head invariably. It's like, well, maybe that's okay. I'll do the one that I know is safe anyway. And I sometimes feel like...
For example?
I'm trying to think of one.
In a place?
Yes, or yes, a good example.
Okay.
You only do something, in other words, it's like saying, okay, you can do this, but you would only do it, we're giving you an out if there's a real good reason to do it. Otherwise, stick to what you normally have been doing. Anything where an updated instruction comes like that, I almost ignore it. I mean, it's almost like...
Well, we don't want you to ignore it because we mean it.
Well,
I know you do.
it would only be, in my mind, it would only be an option.
Yes, that's what it is.
In other words, if
It's an
suppose
option.
you're working on something and it's time to go down and you're all keyed up and
Right.
you feel like if you could just sit for a little bit, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and
Since
then
you
go
have been
down,
given this option.
then you have the option to go down late. But I think you're right. You've done your homework. If you feel like I should go ahead and stick to the guidelines that have been, or guidelines that have been taught to me, I would try to stick to it. But there are options at times.
That's right. But
that
there
I
should be reasons. There should be. You shouldn't vary it just for the sake of varying. That's what humans do. They vary for just the spice of life, they call it. They want just variety. And you shouldn't need that. You have to have reason to do something.
I feel like it's slowly letting them on the leash.
Well, it is, because we have to. We will continually trust you further and further because we know that when you leave here, the trust is going to be in you considerably, and can you handle it? Now, we know that if you separate from that vehicle, that you will know how to handle it, but you're carrying with you new information that you have not had in the next level before. And we're treating you as if you would even take these vehicles in as far as trust is concerned. You see what we're saying? Even as if you would hang on to them for a while. We don't know that you won't hang on to them for a while. We don't know what they have in mind for you once this task is over. We're trying to prepare you for whatever it is. All we want to do is complete this one. But and part of I must admit that we do feel obligated to prepare you for whatever they may have in mind for you when this task is over. Do you follow that? So that's the reason we want you to have enough left mind in that you could function as a member of the next level, even in this animal vehicle that you're occupying to a degree now. In other words, you couldn't, it would not be right if we primed you to exit on the basis or motivation that the moment of your exit, you would drop this suit of clothes. And you would think, because then too many times you would just say, well, I don't have to put up with this much longer, and I'll be rid of it soon, and you'll be looking at it wrong. So you're prepared that should the vehicle be capable of functioning healthily at the completion of this task, and should any older member have any desire for you to use that vehicle in any other way for 1 day, 10 days, 10 months, whatever it would be, that it would be fine with you, and they could trust that you could maintain yourself using that vehicle. And we know we have to have you in that place in order to leave. Now, that's part of our lesson plan, is to have you in that place. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily so that will be a follow-up assignment. It may require that just for you to do adequate programming for the world. Do you follow that? Because once you're consistent, then you won't be sending any negative programming to the world. It's when you have your ups and downs and humanism come in at times that you even are sending negative programming to the world.
But the thing that, I'll tell you what, getting back to the question of whether, about the options, whether to stick to what has been designed for you, where you have been taught. If it were me, I would try very hard to stick with what I have been taught. And you know why? That's right. Because if my vehicle has conformed as long as your vehicle has conformed, then I would be kind of afraid that I would slip back into something and not know it.
I'll tell you, I stand as a witness that in the task that I am performing with this vehicle, at times a lot of liberty has been given to it to do things. And I have even at times exercised a little bit of that liberty. And I was always more comfortable. In other words, it didn't take much exercising of it to realize that I'm more comfortable not exercising it. But it was my choice to choose not to exercise it. Do you see what I'm saying? And I mean, it was literally my choice. I didn't do it to be obedient, because it was given to me. It's okay for you to do. It doesn't matter. You can do those things. And I'd say, okay, I'll do a little bit. No, I'm not too comfortable. I think I'll go back. Because I know that I can stay better in the right place living under certain guidelines.
It's only because that's how you have been programmed and taught. And let's say that you have been what has been designed for you all to consume. Let's say that you were taken to a buffet dinner. Use that as an example, where they have just all kinds of items, and you can eat all you want for one price.
Go back as many times.
Go back as many times as you wanted to, as long as they get replenishing food. How much would you consume? How much would you consume? Now, your vehicle, if you left it up to your vehicle, you probably would haul the food onto the plate. Or you could say, what is it that I need? What do I need? And you would use the gauge that's in your brain already, what you consume back at the craft. And this is the kind of judgment you have to have. Now, it's not that we're setting you up, but we release you from strain going down at a certain time. Now, whether or not you abuse it, or can we even say you abuse it? We can't say anything.
No.
Even if you stayed up every night, we wouldn't say anything. But I certainly would question it if I were you, if it wasn't. What's wrong? Why is it that I don't like the way the next level designed the time for me to go down? What is it that, why is it that I like eating in restaurants when the boss brings in food or brings in things? Why is it that I like that? And if you say I, then that's your vehicle talking. Because everything has been carefully designed for you all in order for you all to accomplish exactly what you're supposed to accomplish.
And if your lab is functioning the way we hope it's functioning, I doubt if you could find a place that you could eat it would be as good, even as good to consume.
Well, if the supply centers do like we ask them to do, by getting very good, as good as they possibly can of the product, and if the ones in the lab examine it as closely as Cody examines their sweaters sitting across then I'm sure that it's in pretty good shape. And in other words, we want your eye to be key to that. You see what I'm saying? We want you to see, not to look for things that are wrong, but to see if everything is okay, which is different. Can you see the difference? Let's say that we did give you the instruction that you could have a still that wouldn't hurt you, or a sweet roll wouldn't hurt you. But yet Binks never brought in sweet rolls or donuts. What's wrong there if you go and consume one just about every day?
Or with any regularity at all.
Right. You see what we're saying? You should learn the wisdom of how to weigh what's right. Now, suppose somebody brought you one and stood there and waited for you to consume it. You couldn't get out of it without causing a scene. Then, of course, you would have to do it. But I feel as guilty as I could be. Same way with...
well, it's not that we want you to feel guilty about it.
No, this is what we want ingrained in your mind.
Right. We would know that you wouldn't really feel guilty. I think you'd feel uncomfortable because you were doing something
right.
that was out of your routine,
right.
and that you would have just assumed not to do. But the circumstances made it where it was difficult not to do it.
And
then you had an instruction under those circumstances. Go ahead and do it.
And this would apply to just about anything. The reason we brought that up is simply because we feel like you have to have strawberry, chocolate covered strawberry.
You're never going to let those.
Out of 35 of them that consumed them, not one of them felt guilty. If they did, we didn't hear that. You see what I'm saying?
Didn't consume it? Everybody didn't consume it?
You didn't? You felt that? Why didn't you take it? But why didn't you take it?
I just got back to the retreat. But it makes me feel good didn't need it, so I didn't get it.
But you didn't take it because of any reason other than you just didn't feel like you needed it. Tell us.
I would like to say I probably would do that.
See, what we wondered is how many individuals said, did Lynx give us these? And because the answer that they would give you shouldn't have been satisfactory if you had asked the question. In other words, lots more should have left them because they didn't get a satisfactory answer. Because the answer they didn't give us the answer they gave us certainly wasn't a satisfactory reason for having one.
You all will live this down eventually. But it's a very good lesson.
You bet.
I mean, that's the
It's,
only reason we're
Well,
bringing
it could be anything. It could be things like this, just time and time again.
I don't know, I just have to say something here that I feel like, the person when they were passed out, was sick, and but my wife was okay to have it, and they came from the three person.
Well,
To me, that's okay, that it was okay by the husband, or that they could go together, okay with that, of course.
Let's take the easy way out, because you've got to remember, that you're still responsible for somebody. In other words, you should say to the person passing it out, we've never had a chocolate-covered strawberry. Are you sure it's okay? Link's okay?
And I'm sorry that if you ask that question and they say yes, Link's okayed it, then you're scot-free
you're okay.
as far as we're concerned. You're scot-free. Because the person who said yes, they okayed it was in the wrong.
The other thing I feel that way about persisting in it, like I say, but he's okay to have, so says, yes, they're okay to have.
Okay.
I feel that's persisting with them.
No, you don't say, is it okay? Say, is Link's okay?
You don't say, see, that's just like it says the house needs dusting. It's the wrong way to approach it. Because you shouldn't say, are these okay to have?
I guess my mind
Because
is assuming that they
you can't. We're trying to teach you not to assume that. And it's very important that you get the right word to me. Because did Link's okay these? Did these come from Link's and it was okay for us to have them? You have to be that direct. Don't assume that a satellite 3 is offering you something and it has been okay. You cannot assume that. We want all of you to take responsibility for your own actions. Once I touch that strawberry, it's my action. And I'm not taking responsibility for it if I'm assuming that it has been carried through Link. You follow what I'm saying? Now, if I say, has that been cleared through Link, or Link says okay, are having these, and they say, yes, it has, then I am scot-free. Even if it was wrong. Do you see that?
Something that you've never had before. Now, something is going to happen tomorrow. Like we, T&O have asked Sariotti to make some cakes for the craft. Nobody knows about it.
Well, we're on tape. Do you know we're on tape?
They'll be back.
Oh, that's
right
right.
after
Oh,
work.
that's right. This tape won't get back to it.
And so Sariotti's going to bring some cakes tomorrow, and it'll be interesting to find out how many people will question, where did this cake come from? Even though they have had cake. You know what I'm saying? But they won't hear this until after they've already eaten it all up, I'm sure.
It seems like it's a blend when you're talking about help flashback to maybe less than 40 kids a long time ago. Talking about the district force and how the ones that fell with him, they were just as responsible as he was, even though they may have questioned him thoroughly enough. I wondered.
He influenced them.
Right, I
But
wondered.
it's okay. Somebody will find out about it.
I wondered if what degree would it be appropriate for them to question
No,
the situation?
but see, that's not a fair comparison. Because that's not a fair comparison. Because if they were on equal standing, if they were members of the next level, and he had misled them a time or two, if they were worth anything, they would have begun to get wise.
In other words, they
That's
know
right.
what
The
is
dealer
wrong.
would say, I'm afraid I've been misled before, that I've gotten okays from you that weren't okay. But actually, I think, to tell you the truth, I believe that's legend.
Yeah.
But the only way it could happen would be if the next level had something to do with getting the renegades together in order to, if there was any truth in it, in order to farm them out and have them
Well, frankly,
out of their hair.
the thing of it all is, everybody knows what you're not supposed to do in the next level. And everybody knows that you're not supposed to do what Lucifer is supposed to let them to do. in other words, all of you know that.
I know it as well as
Things
they.
that you have never had, if somebody brings it in, you shouldn't until you check it out.
It's elementary.
It's just elementary. So everybody was at fault. Everybody was treated individually, and that three people influenced the ones over the others. But
Now, I'll tell you how to change.
everybody was equally involved.
I'll tell you how it should have happened. If it got so far as elementary passing it up, how the correction device should have happened. First person they're going to hand one out should have said, has links okay this? And they should have said, yes, sir. Well, I think so. Maybe I better check. Because the fact that someone is questioning it should make them exert the effort to go backward and see if it really was an okay. In other words, if I'm the one handing them out and I'm questioned, then boy, I'm double questioning myself, because you wouldn't be questioning me if it was out of question. So I'm not going to trust that the other side three person who told me it was okay. It's now my responsibility to go back further and get down to it and see if it was actually links okay, or if it was somebody trying to draw a parallel. Because if they're trying to draw a parallel, what's a safe out? Don't do it. That's always been a safe out. Don't do it. Put it aside until it's been checked out.
Now, what if Link sent you all 3 boxes or whatever it is of chocolate covered strawberries and told you to do something, and you brought them back from retreat? What would you do?
Say, this is links okay.
That's no problem at all.
Yeah, but what would you do? Would you hand them out without saying anything?
The people still should question.
That's right. If you don't say, Links gave us these and wanted us all to have one, if you don't say that, then they should certainly question it. But it's like that gets back to the old thing that that we've had another lesson before. If you're doing anything that might provoke a question, it would be best for you to take the jump on the question and explain what you're doing, so that the question isn't necessary.
Now, what individuals should do, let's say that you brought the chocolate-covered strawberries in, and you said, these were given to me at my craft, out of craft task. Links has not okayed our consumer it. Now, I'll pass these out. Okay? To be perfectly honest, that's what you should have done.
That's right. Instead of trying to find a parallel to use in order to be able to do it.
But really, the best
Those
thing
parallels just don't work. They're a poor method.
the best thing to do would be to wait until it's fall.
That's right. Set them aside. If they rot, throw them away.
What have you lost? That's just soggy. I don't know. I can't imagine chocolate covered
I want to know something about these. Are they fresh strawberries?
Do they get soggy?
Are they kept in the refrigerator? They're dipped in chocolate and then quickly kept in a cold refrigerator? Do you know how fast a strawberry deteriorates? Because even if it was hours later at the craft, a strawberry would be soggy. I mean, if you didn't take it straight out of the cooler.
Pretty firm.
What's that?
They were pretty firm. I think
Now, remember, we're not rubbing this in. We're using it as an example, okay? Not because we don't have any feeling about it. We feel like it's a very good lesson if you all can learn from it. That's all that we can do. Okay? If somebody offers you more strawberries, don't refuse them, okay? But just learn from the experience.
Well, what do you think now?
you check it out.
Yes.
You can't say, well, Links has already given us a lesson, and we've had them once, so what have we lost, you know?
Yeah, but see, I was afraid that you would take what Steve said as justification for passing them out. And that's not. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
No, we don't want you to say, oh, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot
Yeah,
pole.
that would be a wrong thing to do.
That would be a
I've
wrong
been through that strawberry lemon. Eat them yourself.
Don't you dare give me a bunch of strawberries.
Should I turn this up?
You know what's funny is the next couple days after the strawberry lesson, we were at our autocrat task and the manager brought in strawberries with sugar with little toothpicks, thinking that this is really something nice that we can give our employees, expect everybody to have them. So we just passed.
Strawberries and powdered sugar?
Yes, fresh strawberries.
Well, he must think that he has to fatten you all up.
The question came up, are we criticizing somebody if they request, since we have a ban on criticism now, are we criticizing somebody if they request a heating pad and don't state the reason when the procedure is that you state the symptom that you might need a heating pad for, and then the heating pad is provided for you. And at this point we said we wish that we had a little computer system working so that the person who received the request could, with a check partner, go push a button on the computer and it would read out, in order to request a heating pad, the symptom is stated, not just a request for a heating pad, but the reason for needing it. And because here, but we feel like you are not criticizing someone because they are at a standstill. They don't know what to do. Like if I asked for a heating pad but I didn't do it the right way, you're not criticizing them. They have to say to you, we don't have a procedure for giving you a heating pad without knowing the reason for your request. That's not criticizing them. That's stating to them, we don't have a procedure for giving you a heating pad without your request. You're stating the symptom that you need it for. In other words, it is almost criticizing them if you say, you wrote that note wrongly, go write it again. That's more personal. But if you say, if I receive something that is not according to procedure, my natural comeback as a member of the next level is, I don't know what to do with this. And I'd probably say that to you. I don't know what to do with this because I don't think, I may be wrong, but I don't think there's a procedure for me to give you a heating pad unless you state a symptom for which you need it. Am I not right? Maybe I ought to go research it. And then you're not thinking I'm criticizing you. That's giving you a chance because I'm not going to trust myself that I'm right even on that. I'm only telling you what I think is right, but I'm also asking you, is that not right? Do you see what I'm saying? Even if I'm the person who received your request. I'm not so trustworthy that I can come back and say, that's not the procedure. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying, I don't know what to do with this, because I may be wrong, but I thought the procedure was that we state a symptom, a reason for needing the heating pad. And usually at that moment it will dawn on the other person. If it doesn't dawn on them, then you both need to go research the procedure. and find out the reason why this person is stumped, is confused on why you don't respond to their request. Because you may be as wrong as they're wrong.
Well, in a sense, it's what I said about the 7-up also is it's a procedure. In other words, it is a procedure to remove something just because you found it. So I don't know how we can do this unless we want to overlook the procedure. In other words, when will our computer system be set up where they can go and check it out at the computer?
If the computer, it doesn't matter whether the computer system is set up, but we would like for you to be able to go and pick up a card or push a button or do something that would allow you to check if what you think is the proper procedure is indeed the proper procedure and share it with the person in question.
if I remember correctly, when we set this up, I think we said it, people break procedure. And that's their, little red wagon, so to speak. The only time we would complain about it or be concerned about it would be if, they were, doing something that would interfere
Yes.
with the security or something like that. In other words, we may have to let it go.
No, but you can't, because I can't, not if it involves me, you can't let it go. In other words, because if I'm the person that you come to with a request for a heating pad, I don't want to break procedure. So all I can really say to you is I don't know what to do with this note, because I didn't think that I could give you one.
Well, see, this is what we were telling three people to do, if I remember correctly, with the tape. Quote procedure for our stop people from doing.